Now let's address the slave issue. So in Exodus chapter 21, verses 2 through 3, if you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free and pay nothing. If he comes in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. So already, right, you get an idea that this isn't the slavery that we know. Okay, so, when you think of slavery, your mind might go straight to American slavery, right? The slave trade. And what you find here in the Bible is that wasn't the idea at all. That was so different than what God is talking about here. So already we know that this was not lifelong servitude, that this was a set time for amount of years that somebody would do labor, and then that they were set free in the 7th year. One thing I want to go back to, that word, servant, it comes from the Hebrew word eved, and what eved means is it's more closely linked to indentured servitude or indebted servitude. In Genesis, there's the prophecy between Esau and Jacob where Rebekah is told that the older brother would serve the younger, and it uses that same word, eved, and what it means literally is that the older brother will sell himself to the younger, which we know is exactly what happened. Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. If you fall on hard times and you owe somebody, in order for that person to get what you owe them, you give them a certain number of years of labor, and you don't serve for life. It's 6 years, and then you were let go in the 7th year. Now, when we go down to verse 7, this is where things get a little bit more controversial. Verse 7 says, "And if a man sells his daughter to be a female slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master who has betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt deceitfully with her." Now, without the context of the ancient world, you would think, oh, that's messed up. A man is selling his daughter to somebody. But in verse 8, it says that if she does not please her master who has betrothed her to himself. So this is a betrothal situation. Okay, where a man, he's not selling his daughter to be a slave, but rather selling his daughter into marriage, which that wasn't uncommon in the ancient world, where men gave their daughters to marriage at a price. Now, the other side of that is what we call a wedding dowry, where a man presents financial incentive or some payment for a woman for marriage. This was not uncommon in the ancient world. They did this regularly. It goes on to say, "He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt deceitfully with her." So let's say the man does not want the woman he has just purchased to marry, right? That has been betrothed to him. He can and he has to let her be redeemed by the family, either by the father, by other relatives, right? He can't give her off to foreign people, so he's deadlocked to give her or let her be redeemed by someone in Israel. And then verse 9, "And if he has betrothed her to his son, he shall deal with her according to the custom of daughters. If he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her marriage rights. And if he does not do these three for her, then she shall go out free without paying money." Okay. So, or another situation could be where the man purchases a woman and decides to betroth her to his son. Okay. Now, if the son doesn't want her, then let her be redeemed by the family. Or if the son marries her and marries somebody else, or if the master marries somebody else, right, and they don't care for her, then she should be let go without owing anything. Either she's treated as a wife or she's treated as a daughter. Those are the only choices that a man has. She's not even treated as a slave or as a servant. She's treated as either a wife or a daughter, right? Now, if the man doesn't want her to be his wife, let her be redeemed by the family. Or if the son doesn't want her, again, let her be redeemed by the family or let her go. Okay, so this wasn't lifelong servitude. This woman, she's not even lower in society. She's on par with the wife or with the daughter. And one thing I want to bring in is that the law is again being fleshed out, where you have the foundation being the Ten Commandments and the initial judgments or initial laws in Exodus. Then when we get to Leviticus, these laws are becoming a little bit more fleshed out. So Leviticus 25 verse 8, and you shall count 7 Sabbaths of years for yourself, 7 times 7 years, and the time of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be to you 49 years. Then you shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall make the trumpet to sound throughout all your land. And you shall consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his possession, and each of you shall return to his family. Hebrew servants, they're set free on the 7th year, right? So they offer 6 years of service, and then in the 7th year they're let go. Or they could wait until the 50th year, and on the 50th year was the year of Jubilee, where everybody was let go. So there was no slavery in the land, or no servanthood in the land during the year of Jubilee. Everybody was set free. Everybody went to their own possessions. If you read Joshua, it talks about how land was distributed among the children of Israel, and whatever land that you had, whatever was in your possession, you go back to it. So it's like you were never a servant. So servanthood was really locked into 6 years, let go on the 7th year, or wait to the year of Jubilee, and you were set free. Let's say, you enter into servanthood 3 years from the year of Jubilee. You only have to serve 3 years, and you were set free. So again, this is not lifelong servitude. And then when we go to verse 39, and if one of your brethren who dwells by you becomes poor and sells himself to you, you shall not compel him to serve as a slave. The hired servant and a sojourner he shall be with you, and shall serve you until the year of Jubilee. And then he shall depart from you, he and his children with him. He shall return to his own family. He shall return to the possession of his fathers, for they are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. They should not be sold as slaves. You shall not rule over him with rigor, but you shall fear your God. In verse 39, you notice that the law is kind of being repeated or being reviewed. So here it established that if one of your brethren who dwells by you becomes poor and sells himself to you, you shall not compel him to serve as a slave. As a hired servant and a sojourner, he shall be with you. So right here, we're told that it was voluntary. So in Exodus, again, we're kind of given a skeleton of a law where, okay, if a Hebrew, if one of your fellow Israelites enter into slavery, this is what you should do. Now in Leviticus, we're told of the situation in which an Israelite would become a slave. It's when they become poor and they have to sell themselves to become reestablished as an Israelite. Let's also tackle Deuteronomy chapter 15. So Deuteronomy chapter 15 verse 12. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you send him away free from you, you shall not let him go away empty-handed. You shall supply him liberally from your flock, from your threshing floor, and from your winepress. From what the Lord your God has blessed you with, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today. These slave laws or these servant laws are the best case for incrementalism in the Bible, where first you have Exodus, that's sort of like the skeleton of a law or the foundation of a law. Leviticus is a little bit more fleshing it out. And then you get to Deuteronomy, where these laws are really, I would say, fully fleshed out, where the law is building on that foundation. So in Deuteronomy, remember, this is the last book of Moses, and Moses is, reaching the end of his life. The children of Israel, they've been roaming the desert for 40 years, and they're about to enter into the land of Canaan. And Moses is reviewing the law. He's covering the history of Israel at the beginning, how God brought them out of Egypt and all the great things that he's done for them. And now they're about to enter into the promised land. And Moses is basically telling them, he's giving them the last words of his wisdom. That's what's happening here. What we're seeing here is the culmination of, the law pretty much fully fleshed out in Deuteronomy. So before in Exodus, we saw that in the 7th year, the servants were just let go. Here it tells us that these servants are let go with something, right? They're to have some flock, they're to have wine press, they're to leave with some resources where they could begin an actual new life. And what it seems like here is that Israel is actually giving the most progressive laws for women during the time period, where even women who were once in servanthood, who were once servants, can now come out with resources. They could have their own business. They could have their own flock. They could have their own wine press. They are given resources by the person who they served in that 7th year or in the year of Jubilee. And God gives a reason for this. And one thing that a lot of people like to talk about is the Code of Hammurabi, where Hammurabi tells his people, he was an ancient king of Babylon, who's basically telling his people that servants only have to serve 3 years, and then they were to be let go. Here, God says in verse 18, "It shall not seem hard to you when you send him away from you, for he has been worth a double hired servant in serving you 6 years. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do." So Hammurabi says 3 years, and the Bible doesn't shy away from this. God, he's not ignoring that. God is fully known and convinced of the laws that exist during society at this time period, where he says, God is saying, no, Hammurabi might say 3 years, I'm gonna let you guys serve double, and then at the end of your 6 years, you're going to leave with some resources, right? So you serve 3 years, that fulfills your debt, and then the next 3 years is what you'll be working for yourself, basically, just under this person. And if you're still not convinced that the slave laws in the Bible were completely different than what we saw with the African slave trade, we could just go to Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 7. And you could also find this same law in Exodus 21, verse 16, where it says, "If a man is found kidnapping any of his brethren of the children of Israel and mistreats him or sells him, then that kidnapper shall die, and you shall put away the evil from among you." So not only are the children of Israel not to kidnap people and to force them into slavery, but even here, God calls this an evil. God still calls that a moral evil. You can't kidnap people and then force them into slavery. You just can't do it. So when we look back on the African slave trade, that's not what God allowed. He called it evil then, it's evil now. We can also look at Deuteronomy 23, verse 15. "You shall not give back to his master the slave who has escaped from his master to you. He may dwell with you in your midst, in the place which he chooses, within one of your gates. Where it seems best to him, you shall not oppress him." So in America, there used to be what's called fugitive slave acts, where if you had runaway slaves, if they ran, to try to escape slavery in the North, they were to be returned and brought back to the South. God condemned that. He said you can't do that. If somebody runs away, they're allowed to live in whatever area they choose. They can run away from their master. They can choose to escape their servanthood, their bondage. They can do that. And if, again, going back to Joshua, they built what was called cities of refuge. God told them to establish cities of refuge where if people had committed murder or heinous crimes, if they ran to the city of refuge, they can avoid punishment for their crimes, but they have to live there for the rest of their lives, right? God allowed that. So right here, the Fugitive Slave Act completely contradicts the Bible. That was unbiblical and, of course, unchristian. So the whole point of what I'm establishing here is that, does God allow slavery? No, he allows indentured servitude. And what I'm saying here is that, yes, God is working within society, but especially when we get to talking about foreign servants, you're going to see what God is actually doing in this institution. That he's just not allowing it for no reason. There's a very specific reason why God is allowing this type of, I guess you could say, this type of circumstance to happen in Israel. So yes, he does allow Israelites to serve another Israelite, but there are restrictions to it. It's not lifelong, unless they voluntarily choose to. In the year of Jubilee, there was no slavery in the land, or there wasn't supposed to be. So yes, God is giving laws to regulate it. And remember, these are all what if situations. There doesn't even have to be slavery in the land. God's intention was to allow somebody to come back from their poverty and to rebuild themselves so that they wouldn't enter poverty again. This is all about God redeeming, at least redeeming somebody's financial situation. God redeems us spiritually, but he also allows us to kind of rebuild, right? To rebuild material wealth. And this is why it's so important to kind of understand the context of what's happening. Really read the text and understand what God is saying here and what God is allowing, and then also ask why, right? I mean, if it's so much of an issue for you as to what God is doing here, you need to ask the question, okay, God, why is this happening? Why are you allowing this? And then God will show you why he's doing this. And there are very specific reasons, and I would say good reasons for why God is allowing this and why he's regulating it this way. In the next video, I'm going to talk about slavery for the foreigner. Even that is a better example of God's redeeming character.